Tensions between the United States and Canada are reaching fever pitch, and Canadians are taking matters into their own hands, beginning with their shopping carts. A major wave of patriotic spending is sweeping the country, with hundreds of thousands of Canadians promising to boycott American products in favor of Canadian alternatives. The movement, known as Buy Canadian, is rapidly expanding, with online networks totaling more than 500,000 members. Social media feeds are flooded with pleased buyers flaunting their all-Canadian shopping hauls, while store shelves are adorned with prominent Made in Canada labels. But this isn't simply about skipping Starbucks or replacing Kraft mac and cheese. It's an economic statement that sends a strong message that Canadians will not be bullied about. The catalyst was U.S. President Donald Trump's impending threat to impose a 25% tariff on Canadian exports. If the tariffs are implemented, everything from food to fuel might be caught in the conflict, resulting in increasing costs and economic instability. In response, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has not backed down. His administration is planning for a counterstrike, including punitive measures to defend Canadian industries. While politicians trade blows, average customers are mounting their own grassroots resistance. Grocery stores throughout the country are adapting to the changing tide. Some businesses are rearranging aisles to showcase local items, while small retailers are introducing Made in Canada labels to help customers make patriotic purchases. And it's not just food stores. Restaurants, cafes, and small enterprises are also happy to support Canadian vendors. Peggy Chambers, a shopper, said she now triple-checks labels before putting anything in her basket. "I've always tried to support Canadian products, but it now feels like a responsibility," she adds. "As long as it's not created in the United States, I believe I'm making a difference." Meanwhile, viral shopping recommendations are circulating on social media, providing Canadians with a clear roadmap for avoiding American products. The list pits well-known American brands against their Canadian counterparts, emphasizing domestic snack foods, condiments, and household items above iconic American mainstays such as Campbell's Soup, Lysol, and Pepsi. However, experts warn that it isn't always so straightforward. Some American firms rely on Canadian farmers and producers, blurring the distinction between domestic and imported goods. However, for many, it is more than simply labels. It's about taking a stand. It all began with a decision by U.S. President Donald Trump. He threatened to impose a 25% tax on Canadian goods and an additional 10% on energy exports. That sent shockwaves across the Canadian economy. Instead of waiting for politicians to resolve issues, ordinary people took action. Across the country, people are making an effort to purchase Canadian. The social internet is awash with advice on how to avoid American products. Lists comparing U.S. products to domestic equivalents have gone viral. Even grocery shops are joining the bandwagon, putting up unique markings to help shoppers recognize Canadian-made products. Some people find it easier to make the adjustment. Dairy, meat, and seasonal produce, they are nearly always local. However, in the winter, packaged meals, cleaning supplies, and fresh fruit become more difficult to get. An Ottawa inhabitant, Don Profit, summarizes the new mindset. "If it's manufactured in Canada, it's going into my basket." This change in expenditure involves more than simply food. It is an act of defiance, a method for sending a message. Even Canadian authorities support the effort. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has urged people to support Canadian companies. Meanwhile, his administration is preparing countermeasures to Trump's tariffs, which will target billions of dollars in American goods. However, not everyone is celebrating. Some experts caution that purchasing Canadian isn't always as simple as it seems. Many American brands depend on Canadian farms and factories. Boycotting them might have an unintended negative impact on local jobs. According to Sylvain Charlebois, a food business specialist, the key is to understand where products originate. If you merely look at the brand name, you could believe you're making the proper decision. However, you might be cutting off Canadian jobs without ever realizing it. Nonetheless, many customers are committed to the cause, wanting to make a difference. Peggy Chambers, a longtime admirer of Canadian goods, believes the additional work is worthwhile. It takes time, but I'd rather help my own nation than put money into American coffers. Of course, not everything can be found locally. Fresh fruits and vegetables are frequently brought into Canada due to the country's lengthy winters. This is where another piece of advice comes in. Frozen food. Many frozen fruits and vegetables are packaged in Canada, giving them a viable alternative when fresh ones are unavailable. Beyond the supermarket aisles, the economic impact of this transformation is enormous. While Canadian farmers and manufacturers are seeing a spike in demand, firms that rely on U.S. commerce are prepared for difficulty. Pierre Oliver, who manages a model train firm in St. Thomas, Ontario, is concerned. His firm relies almost completely on American clientele. If tariffs are imposed, he may be forced to hike prices, potentially driving consumers away permanently. And the pressure is not limited to small firms. If the Buy Canadian movement continues to develop, large stores may struggle to meet the demand for local products. Prices might rise, and options could narrow. The ripple effects might affect almost every aspect of the economy. Canada is not taking the prospect of Trump's tariffs lying down. The Trudeau administration is ready to respond with tariffs of its own, aimed at billions of dollars in U.S. products. What's the strategy? Focus on products from politically vulnerable states, such as Florida orange juice and Kentucky bourbon. The goal is to put pressure on Trump's friends, leading them to reconsider the trade war. However, it is not only about purchasing habits or taxes. The strain has spread into ordinary life. Reports have appeared of Canadian spectators booing the United States national anthem during sporting events. Some individuals believe they have been misled by their southern neighbor, a country that was meant to be an energy powerhouse. Canada is the greatest supplier of crude oil to the United States and a major source of energy for the northeastern states. Some politicians, such as Ontario Premier Doug Ford, have proposed cutting down energy exports in response to U.S. actions. However, not everyone is on board with the proposal. Provinces like Alberta, which rely on oil exports, fear that cutting off the supply of energy may backfire, harming Canada more than the United States. Untangling Canada and the United States economy is like attempting to separate two colors of paint that have already been blended. They are inextricably linked, and separating them is proving to be difficult, confusing, and full of unforeseen consequences. As both countries negotiate this escalating economic stalemate, the problem is evident. Canada wants to fight unjust tariffs without inflicting further harm to its largest trade partner. The United States, on the other hand, is attempting to consolidate economic supremacy without provoking widespread retribution. Behind the scenes, government officials are trying to find a solution. High-level meetings, urgent strategy sessions, and secretive back-channel discussions have been ongoing for weeks. But as pressure mounts, the key question remains: how far is Canada willing to go? Some argue that reacting with counter-tariffs is the only way to make the U.S. pay attention. Others are concerned that intensifying the conflict would harm both sides by causing business uncertainty and upsetting investor confidence. One economic researcher believes the United States hoped Canada would not strike back. They expected dissatisfaction, but not a full-fledged response. If Canada retaliates, the harm will not be limited to one side. It will have a significant impact on both economies, and it is no longer simply about trade. For many Canadians, this is about something bigger: national pride. Every dollar spent on homemade goods seems like a little act of protest. This is a statement: we do not need the United States to survive. But there is a catch. Canada's economy is more reliant on the United States than most people believe. The two nations have developed their industries concurrently, with supply networks so interconnected that boycotting U.S. goods isn't always as simple as it appears. Many American businesses depend on Canadian suppliers, and vice versa. Take the IT industry. Canadian entrepreneurs want to support the Buy Canadian campaign, but they also rely on American partners, investors, and consumers. Cutting links with the U.S. market would result in reduced opportunities and revenue. Meanwhile, other industries are figuring out their strengths and shortcomings. Agriculture, for example, is one of Canada's most robust sectors. However, relying only on homegrown vegetables becomes difficult during the winter months. The need for Canadian-grown food is driving new investments in greenhouse farming and vertical agriculture, but expansion will take time. Dairy producers, who have long been a stumbling block in U.S. Canada trade talks, are finding fresh interest in their goods. With fewer Canadians purchasing American dairy brands, local producers are looking to broaden their reach and perhaps enter new export markets outside of North America. Manufacturers are reconsidering their supply chains. Many are looking for methods to create things wholly in Canada, minimizing reliance on U.S. imports. If successful, this transition might revitalize Canada's manufacturing industry, generating employment and inspiring innovation. While some industries perceive opportunities, others see challenges ahead. Small firms that rely on American clients are bracing for repercussions. If tariffs are imposed, price rises may make their items unaffordable to U.S. purchasers, jeopardizing their livelihood. However, the stakes extend beyond the economy. The whole premise of North American commerce is being questioned. Just a few years ago, Canada, the United States, and Mexico renegotiated their trade pact to form the USMCA. However, as tensions rise, some are asking if the accord will hold. The 30-day moratorium on tariff implementation has given both countries a chance to breathe. Instead of rushing into economic war, governments now have the opportunity to talk. For Canada, this entails demonstrating its economic worth while addressing U.S. concerns, such as border security and the battle against illicit drug trafficking. The economic connection between Canada and the United States is analogous to a long-term marriage founded on trust, mutual benefit, and a wealth of shared history. However, that collaboration is currently experiencing significant difficulties. With President Donald Trump threatening to impose a 25% tax on Canadian goods beginning February 1st, the stakes could not be greater. Canadian authorities are scurrying to respond, aware that this action might rock the cornerstone of North America's trading system. The data clearly show how intertwined the two nations are. Every day, almost $3.6 billion worth of commodities pass the border. Exports to the United States support millions of Canadian employment, while American firms rely significantly on Canadian resources. However, with trade tensions nearing boiling point, both sides are ready for the consequences. Canadian political leaders aren't holding back. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre has taken a tough position, saying that a trade war will harm both countries. But if it comes to it, Canada will not hesitate to respond. If the United States continues to play hardball, we will have no choice but to reply, he stated in a recent interview. We may move our company somewhere, and we will. He's not only talking about tariffs, he is advocating for a total economic transformation. What's his plan? Reduce Canada's dependency on American imports, improve domestic commerce, and invest in energy independence. Part of that vision includes reviving the idea of a national pipeline to move Canadian oil from west to east, ensuring the country isn't forced to sell resources at a discount or pay a premium to import from other countries. It's common sense, Poilievre argued. Why are we losing money shipping oil abroad when we could be supplying our own refineries? His words have struck a chord with many Canadians who feel the country has been too dependent on U.S. trade policies. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government is also preparing to respond, though their approach has been more measured. While authorities have hinted at countermeasures, like taxes on American goods, they are also looking at methods to de-escalate the issue before it turns into a full-fledged trade war. For many Canadians, however, this is more than simply politics. It is about pride. The Buy Canadian movement has spread like wildfire, with more consumers than ever before preferring indigenous items over American ones. Grocery shops, companies, and even small-town markets are rebranding with a patriotic twist, urging customers to support local businesses. And while this shift in consumer behavior may appear to be a temporary reaction, other experts believe it is permanent. According to one trade economist, the more Canadians focus on developing a self-sufficient economy, the less influence the United States has over us. It's not just about avoiding tariffs, it's about long-term economic independence. The discussion revolves around a larger topic. Can Canada afford to play hardball with its largest trade partner, or does it need to find a way to repair fences before either side suffers irreversible damage? With the 30-day negotiating window closing, the world is waiting to see what happens next. If you loved this video, please like and subscribe.